Welcome back to Creative Culture, a show that explores the many ways creativity manifests itself, and sometimes discovering it in the most unlikely places. This is a podcast about looking at the world with a sense of wonder and awe, and gaining new understanding about art, filmmaking, cooking, poetry, comedy, building, tarot reading, architecture, magic. There is no limit to the ways we can learn about culture if we simply remain curious and open ourselves up to creative people who are exploring their passions. And this podcast is my passion project. If you enjoy it, please consider supporting the show over at patreon.com/creativeculturepod. Finally, I wanted to mention again that this podcast is in full swing over on YouTube. It's great to see how many people are moving over there to watch the video version. I'm pretty convinced that the future of podcasting is on YouTube. Video seems to be where this form of media is heading. And for the best part, you can leave comments and talk to me directly, something you can't do on the audio podcast apps. Check it out and be sure to subscribe at Creative Culture Pod on YouTube. Electric Linda is a tattoo artist in Norway who has been a prominent artist in the tattoo industry for over 2 decades. Her photorealistic work is dynamic, colorful, and vibrant, and she's also a specialist in cover-ups. She's won over 50 international tattoo awards around the world as a tattoo artist. Linda is the owner of Masterpiece Tattoo Family, a tattoo studio in Oslo, the founder of Attitude Tattoo Studio, and she runs Neon Monster, an online store that sells really super cool, stunningly beautiful and colorful clothing and products inspired by tattoo art. And if that weren't enough, Linda's presence is all over social media, very much in an educational capacity with her live streams and videos, talking everything about tattoos and answering your questions. Linda, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for that amazing introduction. I mean, I never had that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm so flattered.
Did you learn something about yourself?
Yes, I did.
Okay, good.
Wow, thank you.
And I have to apologize to everybody listening. If my voice sounds extra sexy right now, it's because I've got a little bit of a cold. I don't usually sound this way, but we will get through this. I just won't get too close to the microphone and spread it, maybe. I don't know. So what do you think? You think I need to get a face tattoo?
Well, maybe not start with that, but yeah, I think everyone should just get the tattoos that they want. Because a lot of people are asking, like, what do you think I should get? And that's exactly what I would say. Like, if you want it, then do it. That's my opinion, though.
You see a lot more face tattoos these days. It's becoming much more common, isn't it?
Yes, and I think, going back to when I started, like 24 years ago, it was. Most people had their tattoos on their upper arm, lower arm, and then maybe their thighs or calves. And then the last place they would get tattooed were their hands, face, neck, But, and then 20 years later, a lot of people now, the young people, they want to get their first tattoo on their hand or neck or they're so much more visible now. They start with the most visible, and then they start, doing the arms or legs or calves or thighs. So it's become the opposite almost, and I think that's pretty. I don't know. It's somewhat scary in a way, but also. I don't know. It's just the moral in me. I like the old-fashioned way. I don't know.
Well, that would be a pretty bold move to have a face tattoo as your very first tat, I would think.
Yeah, it is. But now you see, the celebrities like Post Malone, or is it Lil Wayne, and they have so much tattoos, so that people see them as normal people, and I'm like, oh, I'm normal too. I can also get face tattoos. Because now it's not the same stereotype as it was 20 years ago, when it was usually just bikers or criminals or, and now it's for everyone. because of the TV shows like Miami Ink and Ink Master.
Right. Yeah, everybody wants to be like Post Malone, I guess. But
Yeah.
his tattoos are cool because they're all so separate. And I kind of see that with face tattoos. Is the approach different? Do people approach those differently as far as the artwork goes? Because it seems like they are more, they're less integrated on the face as like compared to like a sleeve or something.
I would say like those types of tattoos is almost what I see in, let's say, in street art, If you see street art, you can see those big, beautiful graffiti pieces which are made by those graffiti artists. And then you have the the small tags and like the just small scribbles or symbols or, call me almost like, those toilet art. So it's like they're two different worlds almost. And I am, of course, more into that, the bigger, beautiful art pieces that you really plan out, like a full sleeve or a back piece. And then you have those small scribbles. They are more popular now just to get that little symbol or text or, I don't know. They're different, two different worlds.
And I don't want to belabor the face tattoo thing. I don't know why I got onto this onto this part. But do you think that when people get face tattoos that they're for the most part they're revealing their personality, or is there a part of them that's sort of like trying to hide a little bit of themselves?
I think it's a combination. For me, I think it was a lot of the tattoos were almost like a shield. Because me personally, I can be very sensitive and get easily hurt, and then the tattoos they became somewhat of a shield, like this don't mess with me kind of attitude, because I didn't feel like I had enough of that attitude. So the tattoos helped me in a way. But I also think because some of the reasons why someone would get tattooed is often either because they are hurt, they have been hurt, they have a feeling that they want to express, or they are healed. They have healed from something, and now they have found sort of maybe a new powerful side of themselves. Therefore, we see many phoenix tattoos, but we also I tattoo a lot of healed people, and because I notice the vibe, and then they tell me their story, and now it's like almost like we're celebrating a new chapter in their life. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's usually the reasons why you get tattooed, I would say. But maybe some people want to hide their personality, and maybe some want to really express them. But I would say more of the expression than hiding it, I think.
I would think so. Except for maybe I see some of those guys, have like the full face all done. It's like a mask. It doesn't even look like the person anymore. But is there sort of like a tattoo addiction? Is that a real thing, or is that just kind of a made up thing?
I think it is a thing, because I think it's the mental thing. Like you go and get a tattoo, and you get somewhat of a feeling like you have expressed a part of you, a part of your personality, and it looks good. It sort of decorates your body. So it's almost like, getting a jewelry or getting your hair done, but it's more permanent, of course. But usually the tattoo just makes you feel better, or it's a celebration, and it's a good thing, usually. So, and therefore you're like, oh, this was not that bad. It wasn't as painful as I thought, or, and then you start thinking, I have so many clients, and I tattoo one piece, and in the middle of the piece, they're like, you know what, on the other side, I could have, and they start planning in the chair,
I can relate.
like their next tattoo, yeah.
I can relate. I got my first tattoo on my leg, and I really wanted to get a tattoo, but I wanted it to be something that had some real significant meaning. And so I got it after I ran my first marathon and completed the first marathon. So I got a 26.2 mile tattoo, which I designed it myself, and took it to the tattoo artist and asked him to, and of course he had to tell me how it was not going to really work the way I wanted it, and kind of fixed it up a little bit. And I learned a lot about tattooing. But yeah, once he was putting that on my calf, I was thinking, wow, now I want to get some other tats. So I did end up getting a couple more. Well, I have some questions about those I'll get into you with in a little bit. But I like this idea of, to me, this is the relationship between the tattoo artist and the client is a special, it's the most intimate kind of form of art there is. I can't imagine any other type of art where that artist is so connected to the client. Can you talk a little bit about that and what your feelings are on that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think earlier on, I was just thinking that I was making, designs, cool tattoos, and then someone would get it, and then you would have a small talk, and then years go by, and I get more and more that vibe that you're talking about, like the connection with the clients, and I started pulling out more of their personalities or their story or their connection with whatever is going on in their life at the moment. So you really have to sort of dig and connect in that way to create more customized and personal tattoos, so they would feel like, this is their tattoo that they almost, almost like I want to make them feel like they were born with it, And then I have to really dig deep and almost be like a mind reader. But that's, I feel like I've, more and more got that sense of it, if you know what I mean. So.
Yeah, so you really need to kind of know the story and what the person is why. There's more of a why involved, I think, with tattoos than other forms of art. If somebody says, paint a bunch of a flower mural on a wall, there's not that connection. But if they're asking you to tattoo a certain flower, there's got to be a meaning behind that. And I'm sure that knowing that story probably helps you to create the art.
Definitely. And I think I think a lot of tattoo artists also feel like we are somewhat of psychologists at the same time, in a way, and I think a lot of tattoos do also, as I said earlier about the being hurt or have healed, that there's often some situation, something behind this tattoo that also becomes that celebration of the healing, so that it is healing itself. It is a part of that healing. So that has also given me a lot more of the feeling of deep, meaningful purpose behind this, and not just like, oh, let's do a cool tattoo. So,
right. Yeah, because it is permanent, and yet at the same time, it's temporary, because once the person is dead, the tattoo is gone. So the artwork is gone. Although I have seen where people are, is this the thing where people are like getting their tattoos removed and put on the wall before they die?
I've heard, or that and that they put like in their will or something that when I die, you can, make a
skin
lamp, what is it called? Like a lamp, what I mean? Like from the skin.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I think that's so like morbid, and not my kind of thing. But yeah, I've heard that some people do that.
Yeah, it's intriguing. But I do like the idea of, I've always been attracted to ephemeral art that just exists kind of in the moment. And I think that tattooing is like an extreme example of that, because it's a very long moment, but then once it's gone, it's gone.
And another thing is that you can't sell it. You get
Right.
it. You get your tattoo and you can't sell it. You know, it's not going anywhere. And also another thing is that you know, a lot of people, when you're talking about price of a tattoo, and then you think about it like you pay for it once, and you know you have it for the rest of your life. So it's I don't know, it's interesting.
There's got to be some tattoo artist that's thinking about a subscription model, though, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I've been thinking about it myself. I was like, it should have been like a subscription. Like, okay, we'll do a contract, and from now on, you're gonna pay me this much, this much for the rest of your life. So yeah, that would make me, that would be better, I think. But yeah.
What do you like it when you have a first time customer? They've never had a tattoo before. How is that experience different from just somebody who has a lot of tats?
Not much different, except I joke around with it, like something like, yeah, this is gonna hurt, or you know, so you're a tattoo virgin, huh? You know, and then when I tattoo them, it's, you know, it's nothing different. I would say no. So I just joke around a little bit, so make them feel, because being nervous, being a little nervous is often a good thing, because if you think that this is going to hurt a lot, and then you start tattooing and it's like, oh, it wasn't that bad, you know. So I think being a little nervous is always a good thing, but not too much, because then you faint, because that happens a lot too.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So what do you do when that happens?
I usually just often I look at the skin, like the color of the skin in their face. So, and if that color changes a little bit, or I see them sweating a little bit more, and that's a big difference though between men and women. Men are usually more quiet, and they just like, you know, sort of, they don't want to say anything, and they want to be tough, and they're like, okay, I can do this. And then women are more like, oh, I think this is more painful than that, and they analyze more and they share more. So women are easier to see that, oh, maybe we should take a break, or maybe you need to eat something, or, you know, so yeah, there's a difference there.
There's different kind of levels of pain depending on, you know, body part, and even just different parts of the same tattoo. I've noticed it can be painful depending on how the ink is going on. But I think that this actually, you know, what we should do is, a lot of people listening, because this is a very broad audience for this show, and a lot of people have never had a tattoo and may be considering a tattoo. I think it would be good if you could kind of walk a first timer through getting a tattoo. Like, what could somebody expect? They're thinking about, I want to get a tattoo. It sounds really cool, but I'm kind of intimidated about going into a tattoo studio. Just ease their mind, and what all could they expect from the beginning to the end, walking out of there?
Well, that is actually a lot of information, and I actually, but I wrote everything down. I actually made a book about that, which I call the Ultimate Tattoo Guide, which is sort of like how to get your dream tattoo. You know, how to prevent regret, because that happens a lot. But the thing is, one thing to remember is that we always, you know, evolve, and we change into a new version of ourselves. So a lot of people are thinking too much of the motive and the design, and they're like, oh, I need to have something that's going to fit me for the rest of my life. And I tell them that there's never a guarantee that will happen, you know, because you will change and you will evolve. So I would say first it's to, of course, think about what would symbolize you, or where you are in life now, or that healing you've been through, or, you know, so something that is, and I would say something that is happy, something that is positive, and giving you the push to, you know, go into your new chapter in life, and not maybe symbolize something you have been through that has been tough or sad, you know, because if you symbolize that, visually, then you're going to get reminded of that all the time. So I would say focus on like the positive future of yourself. And then I would say research tattoo artists and tattoo styles. Like look at tattoos on Instagram and Pinterest just to see what kind of styles you like. If you want them to be minimalistic or just black outlines, black work, or if you want it to be realistic, like photographs. If it's going to be color or black and gray, do you want more like new school, old school, traditional, the typical sailor, the old ways? There are so many beautiful styles. So I would say research the artists and the styles. And when you have the style that you want, it's easier to find the tattoo artist that does that style. And that's the biggest sort of research that you have to do. And then it's just to, go on with the artist, and they will tell you how to prepare. But usually it's just when you go into a tattoo session and you're going to get tattooed, it's very important to have that you have eaten a nice meal before you go in there, and that you bring some snacks or drinks or candy, something that will give you energy. And then I would say bring entertainment, because some tattoo artists are very social and talkative, and some are not. Some just sit there and I dive right into my tattoo.
That's what my tattoo artist is. My tattoo artist tells me that when he's tattooing, he just really likes to focus. He says we can chit chat in between areas of it, but most part he just wants to be left alone.
Yeah. And I do that too. And then suddenly we start talking and we vibe over something we have in common. And then I'm like, I can't shut up. So, but yeah. And then I would say the last thing you need to bring or prepare for is to have comfortable clothing, and not go in there with jeans or, like this shirt, but like have comfy clothes. And think about it like if you were going on a long flight, for example, then you want to have comfortable clothing and something to eat and some entertainment of some sorts. So it's almost the same thing, just a little bit more painful.
So have a good idea of what you want before you go in there. And is it a good idea to bring some examples, or what do tattoo artists think about people who bring their own designs in?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because a lot of people ask that. Can I bring my own design? And I would just say, it depends, what it is, of course. So have the tattoo artist look at it, because some tattoo artists will say, of course, no problem. We can do this. Do you want me to copy it, or do you want me to adjust it or fine tune it? And then some will say straight up, no, I don't do this. So I would just say, just ask. Just ask, because yeah. And then, of course, be a little open-minded, because maybe your artwork is okay and it's nice, but maybe it could need a little bit of improvement, So, yeah, but it's important just to ask, just have that communication. Right. I just did a video about that, the communication, because as I thought a lot about is that tattoo artists can have a lot of talent and be super creative, but if they can't communicate well with clients, then that could destroy a career.
Yeah, and that's a two-way thing. I know when I had this one done on my arm, and it's upside down. You can't see it here, but it's a San Francisco one. It was very meaningful to me. But I had him design it, and I just told him, here are the 5 elements that are important to me that I would like to have on there. And so that kind of, and we discussed it. We had a consultation for, it must have been over maybe 45 minutes or so, just talking about the design. And this was a few weeks before getting the actual tattoo. And then he drew up some really quick sketches while we were talking. And then he said, okay, here's the way I work. I will design this thing, and when you come in, It's going to be ready. There's like basically no, he could maybe tweak a couple little things, but he said, I'm not going to be like sending you a proof or anything like this. So it was like, there's a real trust in him. And he had tattooed on me before, so I already had kind of established a trust with him, and I liked his style. But is that kind of a typical scenario?
I think it's very typical, but I stopped doing that because that's the typical tattoo artist life. It's to have the consultation, like, okay, you want this, okay, they write it down, just the keywords, like you want it there, okay,
Yeah.
and then they go home, and then either they have maybe one day a week where they just draw for their clients, or they do it at home. And I did that at home because I was fully booked the whole week, and then so I had to draw in the weekends or at night, after the kids go to bed, and I have to remember what the client said, and since I do realism, I need photographs. So I was Googling photos and like, okay, maybe a lion, the typical most tattooed animal these days, Googling those lions and maybe doing a design and then showing it to the client, and they're like, yes, like almost, but can we like change this or that? And so I stopped doing that, and now I design with my clients, especially when they have their vision of it. I think it's better to just design with them. And so I give them a homework. Actually, I give them a full like PDF with 5 pages homework, so that they can really prepare for the design by finding their own photographs or objects at home, or anything that can sort of give some value to this design, and upload it. So we have like a shared folder, on Google Drive. And so when they come in and we design it, everything is there. I can just see all of their photos, and I can design with them. But yeah, most tattoo artists, I think, around the world still do that sort of in that technique. So they just have the consultation, and then they design on their own, and then they don't show it to you until you have your appointment, and like, ta-da, here it is. And therefore, I think a lot of people can't, they don't want to hurt the tattoo artist's feelings, or so
Yeah.
they don't say anything, and then they're like, oh yeah, okay, cool. So that's why I think a lot of people regret their tattoos, because they can't dare to sort of correct the tattoo artist, because they're like,
right.
you're the pro,
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that regret is probably something you would feel within the first couple days of getting a tattoo, because you hear about people who are trying to get a tattoo removed or cover up or something years later, and people ask them, well, do you regret it? And I would think that most of the time it's probably not regret, because it's just that you've moved on in your life from that point. Like when you buy a car 15 years ago and you sell it now, you don't regret having bought it at the time. It was the perfect car, but you've just moved on, and you want something new. So yeah, I would think that would be, that regret's going to come soon.
Yeah, because that's what I think tattoos should be, is just a visual diary on you.
Yeah.
You decorate your body with visual diary entries from your life.
Yeah.
And so I think that some of my tattoos that are old, or sort of maybe faded, or they don't mean that, they're not meaningful to me now, but they're still meaningful because they meant something deep
At that
back
time.
then.
Yeah.
So I think that's just charming to have some old.
It is. It's like having
faded.
a journal, a diary on your body that goes with you everywhere.
Yeah.
What was your first tattoo?
My first was a mermaid on my upper
Oh.
arm. So I just had the mermaid, and then I built further. I had to have more. So there was this background. But I drew it myself when I was like 19, and I went to a tattoo artist, and he was like, yeah, this is cool. We can use this. That was the typical, can you use my design? So that was my first tattoo. And then I just looked at what he did, like what kind of equipment he used. I'm like, I could do that. So yeah, that typical ADHD thing. Like I can do anything. As soon as I see something, I'm like, oh, I could do that. So, yeah.
How long was it before you were starting to tattoo yourself as an artist?
I got my first tattoo when I was 19, and I started my apprenticeship when I was 20. So it was just, and I think actually it was just months between. I think.
Wow, you just knew right away this is what you wanted to do as soon as you got that tat. Wow.
But it was my mom's idea, though.
To get the tattoo or to become an artist at it?
To become an artist. Because, sorry, I just need to wave to my, because my camera keeps moving. So,
oh, no.
Yeah, so now it's good. I shouldn't
just
be
adds
waving.
An element of drama.
Yeah. But yeah, it was my mom's idea because she saw that when I was sitting in my room, I was doodling on the desk, like just, sitting on the phone and like just doodling. And she said that those drawings looks like you have been tattooing your desk. And she was like, that looks really nice. You should become a tattoo artist. I'm like, what? What is that? I didn't know about tattoos. I didn't, I didn't know anyone in my family or around me that had any tattoos, so it was never like, introduced to me. But I was also very shy, super shy. So my mom had to bring me to the tattoo shop, and I was 19, or just turned 20 or something, and still super shy. And she was like, "Yeah, you have to get this. She's such a talented." And I gave them my portfolio with drawings, and he was like, damn, okay, you can start tomorrow. I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah.
Wow. And so how does that apprenticeship work then? Do you just work alongside another tattoo artist? And how does how do you practice, and how does that whole process play out before you can actually tattoo people?
Yeah, well, that also depends because... that has evolved a lot because when I started, it was more of the same vibe as almost like that kung fu vibe, respect to the that mentor and apprentice respect.
Wipe on, wipe off.
Yes, it was very much like that, and a lot of respect, but also a little bit of that biker vibe, like, and my mentor was a biker, or he is a biker, and so that biker mentality of being in a club, and then you have those who want to join, they have to sort of be a prospect, and then they become an apprentice, and they have to sort of earn the next space, you know what I mean? So that was very much like I had to be the slave. They actually whipped me with a wooden stick, and they bullied me, and they were really tough. Yeah. But that was
seriously?
Before.
Damn, that's hardcore.
Yeah. And back then, we also, we reused needles back then, because it wasn't like in any of those restrictions that we had to have, and we didn't have that many needles. So because of us in Norway, we had to sort of what is it called? Like we had to order needles from the States. Because we didn't have those suppliers in Europe, and then it came some suppliers in Europe, and then eventually Norway. So I learned to solder my own needles. So I think I had that typical old school way of learning. So then you are like the apprentice and the mentor. I learn everything from him, and I respect him, and then I have to sort of earn and work for him for years and years to sort of pay my respect. But that has changed so much now. When people, they see Ink Master, everybody wants to become a tattoo artist, and then it's about having followers on Instagram and getting the perfect apprenticeship, and then or even just learning from YouTube. Now a lot of they learn things from YouTube, and they just buy a tattoo kit and they start tattooing their friends, and then they just open their own business.
You can do that? You can just buy a tattoo kit and just go for it?
Well, I'm not sure about that in the States because I know that you guys have different laws and regulations.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But in Norway, sadly, we don't have that. The only requirements.
Just go for it.
Yeah, anyone can just
Wow.
buy it. Yeah, so I want to change this because I'm so proud of my profession. You know, I want
Sure,
to be
yeah.
able to have like a piece of paper saying that I'm educated in what I do.
Certified or something.
Yeah. And we don't have that now. So anyone can just buy a kit and just start. And so the only requirements is the location. That like it should be able, you should have like a sink and you should be able to clean it. And how do you clean
Right.
it? And then the other one is the colors. Because now we've had, in Europe, we had this really bad issue with the inks. So, but I'm
what
not
was that?
so. That's like they just prohibit it. Is that the word? Because English is not my first language, so
No,
I have
no
some,
problem.
yeah. But I think they just banned so many inks
Why?
that. They did that back in 2009 as well, but then it was because of these,
Unsafe?
yeah, because it had these mini micro or metal things,
Oh,
I can't
yeah, I don't
even
want
remember
that.
their names. But I understand that they have to ban it if it's bad for you, if
Right.
it's dangerous. But now it's more like you need to have a certain label on the bottle so that the client can read what the bottle is, what's in the bottle. And I'm like, for 24 years, nobody ever asked me, like, can I read the ingredients of
I
the
just
bottle?
want my
I'm like, no.
mermaid.
Yeah. So yeah, we have this little color issue or ink issue right now.
interesting.
And they say that the same thing is going to happen in the States soon too. So it might go over there as well. But we'll
Should I be
see.
worried about the color on my tattoos?
No,
Okay.
not at all.
I like the colored tattoos. There seems to be
Yeah.
there is a difference between people who really want the just black and gray ink and then the people who want color on their tattoos. It seems like two different camps there.
Yeah, definitely. I think the black and gray is more more cautious. It's not that big. It's not that big step to do a black and gray piece than it is to do colors, because then you're like, I think some people feel like, oh, they're really going crazy if they have a lot of colors. But I just feel like colors can just, bring out so much more of, for example, femininity. So for women who want to have a big tattoo, that can be a really masculine thing to do with your body, because tattoos does make you a bit more masculine. Tattoos is masculine in a way. So I think to add flowers and colors and make it decorative, that can make it more feminine.
Oh,
But
yeah,
yeah.
they're totally. I think they can be so sexy on a woman. I mean, there's just no question about that. How long did it take you once you were starting your tattoo career there before you got into this whole photorealism style of tattoos, and how did you develop that style? Because it's gorgeous. I mean, they're just. It's hard to even describe how realistic your tattoos look. You could hang that artwork easily on the wall.
Thank you. Well, it was because even since I was in kindergarten, I was very much into drawing. And when the other kids, they drew doodles, I tried to make princesses and castles and unicorns. So I was very much into already, like in the early ages, I wanted to make it realistic. And so, and then I got a really good drawing teacher in, I think that was in ninth, 8th, 7th grade. I had a really awesome art teacher who just drop this. You don't draw what you want to draw, draw what you see. And I learned how that you shouldn't think about, are you drawing a nose or fingers, hands? Everyone is like, how do you draw hands? But if you just don't think about it and just draw what you see. And then I learned that realism thing. So when I started tattooing, it just took me like a year, I think, before I did my first portrait, or even sooner than that, I can't remember. And I made my first portrait. I think if I would see it now, I would totally laugh about it. But my mentor was like, oh, you're doing a portrait? Oh, you shouldn't do it. It's so difficult. And I was like, well, I want to try. And then I did it. And he was like, oh, okay. You keep doing that. So I think he was a bit jealous. So, yeah. And so that was very easy to me because I used to draw. And in my teens, I used to actually have I did commission work. So I drew portraits of people, just, regular stencil drawings. So,
what do kind of old school tattoo artists, are they receptive to photorealistic tattoos in general, or are there some that are really hesitant? I know that my tattoo artist was, I don't think he doesn't like them, but he was real hesitant. He was like, well, those are just going to fade into a big mush.
Yeah, and it's almost like there's a war. Almost like there are two kinds of tattoo artists. You have the old school ones, the traditional ones, and then you have the realism. And it's almost like they are two different countries who just hates each other or something. Because
Really?
I've had traditional tattoo artists telling me like, but you can't draw. You just copy. You're just a copycat. You can't draw. I'm like, okay, I can draw, but I just like having reference. And then I see some tattoo artists also say, like on their business card or social media, they're like, I make tattoos that look like tattoos. And I like to make tattoos that don't look like tattoos,
Yeah, I like that. I had one on my arm here. I can't see it here. But it was to symbolize my 15 years on YouTube, and so to me, I thought it was very neat. But it's one of these with just a thin line and everything, and he told me the same thing. He was like, that's not a tattoo. He like straight up said, that is not a tattoo. I said, I don't know what it is, but I like it, and I just kind of want this on my arm.
Yeah.
So I guess there's probably a little bit of gatekeeping. I always like to hear the dirt about various industries and how the different factions kind of can't get along. Actually, I have a question about this one. The thing about this thin line is that, and it was really small, and is that it bled under, and so I've got to get a cover up on this thing at some point, because the like a little play button on there is just like blue, faded out around the edges. And is that my skin? Is that just me, or is that a common thing?
It's because you're human and you are not a piece of paper, and you know what I mean. So it's because I don't know, like really, like in like I can't have that deep doctor-ish information because I'm not a doctor. Yeah. But I know that I tell everyone, like, do not, if you want a text or a symbol, like you need to do it bigger, because the bigger you do it, the more you can still read it, in a few years, because every little line or dot that you make, it's gonna grow in the width in a way. So it's if you do something very detailed, like a little text, it's gonna just be like a big gray mush in some years. Usually, like that's what usually happens, and some are super lucky. So that's why you see a lot of, if you Google like finger tattoos, healed finger tattoos, if you Google that, you're going to see a lot of those. They look so nice, that typical Pinterest, that nose, super sharp, small details, like so amazing. But if you can find some healed photos, you're going to see that they are not that detailed anymore. So that's why I also like to do the color realism, because that's more like painting. You know, I do.
It's like watercolors. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's like the bigger you go, the more details you can add into it, and they will stay because of everything around it. So it's not, I don't know. I just like to make it big, because then it's not, the details won't go away over time.
So the other thing you specialize in are cover-ups, and I find this really interesting because you do the side-by-side comparisons. I've seen these where you have the before and the after, and you cannot tell that the original tattoo ever existed there. What are the challenges of covering up an existing tattoo?
The challenge is that after about 3 months after you get tattooed, like let's say this is the skin. Then when you tattoo, the ink is going to be put in the middle, right? So when you tattoo the second time, the ink is from the top to the middle, and it's going to be filled all the way to the top. And then it takes like 3 months until that ink sinks down to that middle part. And that's where the old tattoo is. So after 3 months, you can see that the old tattoo starts showing up more and more. So that's when you have to sort of think logically when you do a design, that you do something that is dark and has a lot of texture or small details, so that you can sort of fool the eye a bit. So that's why I usually say that I'm not a magician, I'm more like an illusionist in a way. So you sort of just have to fool the eye and be very strategic when it comes to placing dark versus light, and then also cold versus warm colors, because warm colors don't cover at all, but cold ones do. So yeah, there are many things that we have to sort of think about, but I think also a lot of tattoo artists just don't want to try, because they have been taught from their mentor that, oh, you can only do a cover up with, you know, blue or purple, and you have to go big, and you have to go a lot of black, and they say no to a lot of cover ups because it's so much more fun to make something from, you know, on a blank canvas, you know. That's more fun, and then you can be more your type of artist, and you can be more creative. But I said yes to all cover-ups, and now I have this almost like a slogan, like I can cover anything, because
everyone's a challenge. Yeah.
Because I said yes, and because I tried and failed, but I learned so many. You know, you have to fail to learn, you know, and then you become better. So, and of course you can fail and then you can fix, luckily.
Right.
So, but a lot of people just don't want to learn. They don't want to say yes, so they never learn, so they don't get those clients. So, yeah.
Well, it's part of my mantra this year, is to say yes more often, because I think so many people want to say no to everything.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the tools themselves. I guess this is stepping back a little bit, but how do you describe some of the tools you use? Now you're using the ink machine. Is it what is the name of the actual? Is just to call it an ink or a tattoo machine? Is that the
tattoo
deal?
Machine?
Okay, right. It's not a gun, right?
No.
People say gun. That's like taboo. Don't say that.
Yeah,
That's
then
like
all tattoo artists just like, they cringe and like, oh, it's not a gun. They get super mad. But yeah,
I have heard
not,
that.
You know,
yeah,
it's not a weapon. It's a tool, artistic tool. But
and
it's a
how does that
machine.
work? So does it suck the ink up into the machine itself? Well, you describe it. How does that work?
Yeah, the machine is actually just. It has a motor that just makes, and I put the needles inside, or the cartridge with needles, and then there's a motor that just makes this go back and forth, you know, so that the needles just go back and forth, and
just dun, 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 dun,
yeah,
into your
so
skin.
they just go back and forth all the time, and but the actual ink is just when I dip the needles and the machine, and the needles, the tip of the needle, I dip it in the ink so that the ink goes into the cartridge a little bit so that it keeps it there, but it's just holding the ink just around the needles, sort of. And then when I tattoo, yes, exactly. And then when I tattoo, the needle, it goes down into the skin. It doesn't bring the actual ink in there. It just goes into the skin. And then when a needle goes out, it creates a vacuum that pulls the ink in. And that's something that I actually just learned like a couple of years ago. I didn't even know that before now. So, but that's kind of interesting. It's almost like when you're just stepping in mud, you know, and you pull your foot out, that's when the, water fills the footprint.
Yeah.
You know? So that's how it works.
And it's so what prevents the needle from going in too deep, like through all the layers of your skin and just like mainlining?
First of all, it's just we as tattoo artists, we have to know how long we should have the needle going out from the tip of the cartridge, so that it shouldn't go too long. And then we feel, usually I feel and I hear the sound of the needle in the skin. And then I have to also think about some areas in the body. You might want to, go less deep than other places. So it's a mix of a lot of things. But you see that when you have a tattoo that is that's something that you can feel the edges or something of the tattoo. Very common. That is usually because then you got some scar tissue because the tattoo artist went in a little bit too deep. So, but there's also like, you can't, the skin, the lower parts of the skin, it's so much more tough. So it's, you can't really go that deep. So it might, it's not going to like go through the whole skin, but it goes in the middle part of the, I can't remember you have the epidermis and the dermis, and I'm so bad with those medical terms.
I don't know.
But yeah, so it goes
lower dermis.
About so it goes about in the middle of the whole thing. So but yeah.
Does it ever? Do you ever like?
Deep,
does that ever happen? You go too deep, and you're like, oh, sorry, it came through the other side of your arm.
No. But yeah, I can see later when it heals, if I see there's actually some scar tissue here, then I know that I went too deep. I don't think I've seen that yet, but I've seen it from other artists though, that I do cover-ups and stuff, and I see that they have scars.
Well, that's because they were horrible artists.
Yeah.
Not like you. You got to fix it. You got to fix their bad work, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And so the needles then, and it's more than just a single needle, right? There are it's like different types of brushes.
Yes, exactly like brushes. So I have, round ones that are, all from 1 to, or it's usually 1, 3, 5, or 7, or 9, or more needles, all collected like a round, thin pencil or a brush. And then you have the wide ones that we call magnums. And then the needles go usually actually not side by side, but like this. So that so then they use, for the shading and stuff, it's almost like having a wider brush, and we use a lot of water and then higher speed, and then we can shade and do those soft shading. So yeah.
It's amazing to see that in action. Have you seen this Brutal Black project? Did you see that? This guy in Italy?
Yes, I think I've seen several of those, but I think because
it's like
that's
violet.
Been and I think that new thing to black out like a full, like Kat Von D also did her full arm in blackout, and I think
I've seen him on
myself.
The necks. I think the guys in 21 Pilots has that.
Okay, because I like blackouts when it's like I started doing here. It's not finished, but it's to cover up a lot of old tattoos, but I want to make it, you know, like black, but with the flowers, so that it's still feminine and you know, decorating the body, and not just let's just go. I don't like that. It's
Yeah.
yeah. There's
It
no
looks
art
really
in
painful.
that.
Yeah. Well, this guy in Italy, he was doing it, and he would do it free of charge because it was like this. It was like a weird, almost performance art kind of thing. I saw this where there's like
okay.
3 guys tattooing somebody at the same time, and they're just like boom, boom, just really aggressively holding the person down and putting the ink all over them. I'm like, this
Yeah.
does not sound like a fun time to me.
That sounds more like a, you know, a promo thing. You know, like let's do something crazy, you know, and film it,
Yeah.
and you know,
Maybe that's it.
I think that it sounds more like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what should people not do at a tattoo studio when customers, or what should they not say or ask? I know that tattoo artists don't like it when you ask how much it's going to cost up front. That's kind of a bad thing.
Well, that's actually I did a video on YouTube. That's the most viewed video of mine. It was like 20 things not to say in a tattoo shop, and I think a lot of people were just provoked by it because I'm just honest. But yeah, I got so much hate from that. But I think
From other artists or from clients?
from just trolls, I would say. More like, you know, those who just
What?
want
Trolls
to,
on YouTube?
Yeah. Oh my God. But yeah, because I think I also said that when you ask, for example, how much for a sleeve,
Yeah.
that is a difficult answer, question to answer, because we charge by the hour usually. So I can't say how many hours this is going to take because it depends on so many things, you know. So that's why I said that is something you can't say. Of course you could say it, but it's more like it's a different question to answer. So it's better to ask, for example, what are your rates? You know, what do you charge? Do you charge per hour? Do you charge per session? You know, and can you give me an estimate? You know, and of course a tattoo artist can give like an estimate if you ask for it. So, but it's difficult to answer like how much is my whole sleeve. You know, it's difficult to say that. But some also have these package rates or whatever. But so it's surprising is a difficult one. What else is there? Like I would say, don't bring all of your friends in there. You know,
Yeah.
I think
Don't
this
come
is
in
about
drunk.
yeah. Because I think this is about you and your tattoo. So your connection with the artist is important. And if you bring your mom or your girlfriend or whatever, they are going to be like, oh, are you sure you're going to do that? Didn't you talk about this? And they're going to, yeah, they're going to like put so much energy
Bring
and
uncertainty. Yeah.
yeah. So, and just, as you said, don't be drunk and, yeah. But other than that, it's like, yeah, I would just be you and just, if you want a tattoo, and go and get a tattoo. And yeah.
Yeah. What's like the most common tattoo people get? Is there like a butterfly or a phoenix or something?
Oh, then we're talking trends, you know, because when I
right,
started, when I started, it was all about the tribals and the kanjis, and then, and of course back then my clients were like 90% guys, you know, usually the tough guys, the bikers, and then
You're
more
basically
and more,
describing me. No.
but then more and more of their girlfriends wanted a tattoo, you know, and
Sure.
maybe they wanted a little rose that was a normal or common one, or a small dolphin, butterflies, kanjis, and then we started entering names and Arabic. Like I was like, but you're Norwegian. Why would you want Arabic or kanjis? Like, do you speak?
It's a cool looking
Japanese?
written language. It looks cool.
But it's like it, and I would just start saying like, please make it more meaningful to you. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, and
Well,
then there were more and more very random trends. So just came and went, So that's why I always tell them, like, please don't fall for the trends, like the Pinterest.
You're going to regret that orange carpeting
Yeah.
someday. What would be like a trend today? What are you seeing today that's really trendy?
Well, I usually, because I have clients that don't do trends, they don't want trends. They come to me for something else. So I don't.
Well, yeah, you're doing
see it
something
that
a little
much.
different, yeah.
Yeah, but I have colleagues, and then I see. I see that people are actually more individual and sort of celebrate their personality more now than they used to do before. Before it was like, and before we had the flash, flash designs were ready-made designs, so to choose from,
Right.
So then you would choose this one, and then another guy could also choose this one. So you would have the same tattoos. And then more and more, it was more and more normal to make custom designs for clients. So I think now people don't want flash tattoos as much as before, because now we know that we can get it customized and personal. So, so I haven't seen any like really massive trends now, except one thing that is really interesting, and that is that the tribals that I did 20 years ago, they're back, but they're back
really?
in a modern way. They're thinner and more interesting, but that's kind of weird.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And what about technology? Do you see technology changing the tattoo industry at all moving forward? What's the future of tattoos look like?
Oh my God! For 20 years I was sitting and tattooing, and I had a cord from my machine that I was running over the cord, tripping in it. And I was like, damn it, can't you just make like cordless machines, please?
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 years ago, I got my first cordless machine, and that was amazing. So that was like one big step. And then, of course, the design method to use Procreate on the iPad to design, and then I use an app to make the stencil, so everything goes so much faster. Now I can design and do stencils for a sleeve in 2 hours, and I used to do it in 2 full days,
Yeah.
So that saves a lot of time, of course. And now also with Midjourney and AI art to use those. I use a lot of that now because when someone wants, let's say they want a lion, the most typical tattooed animal, and then I'm just so sick of Googling the same lions.
I know, you pull up the same ones over and over, right?
So now I make my own reference photos in Midjourney, and then I put them all together in Procreate, and I make my own designs. So it's still my designs, but the parts of them are made with Midjourney and not Googled. So,
yeah, that's what I've been doing, is using AI to kind of throw some ideas out there for my next tattoo I want, and it's kind of an interesting experience to see what it comes up with. But I'm a little hesitant to take that to a tattoo artist and just to say, can you work with this, if he would be offended by that or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I would say people that get offended, I mean, that happens a lot these days. I think people get offended by way too many things.
Well, just the fact that an artist would be approached by somebody bringing AI with all of the baggage that comes along with AI these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think I would, like, for me, I love technology. I'm a nerd. I love like computers and the future. I'm like, I can't wait to see what the future brings, in gadgets, and because I see them as amazing tools. But I think a lot of artists, especially the traditional ones, those that are on the other side, they are more like, nah, I wish it was, I hate Instagram and,
You're
AI
ruining
art
everything for us.
Yeah. So I think, but that's because of fear. They are fearful of that this is going to sort of take over. But I always think that if you just use it for your own advantage and sort of get on that wave, and you can use it. I mean, there's no end
Yeah,
of
I think-
possibilities. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, before we go, what does tattooing ultimately mean to you as an artist and even as a person who has a lot of tattoos? Is this a spiritual connection? What ultimately does this mean to you?
It's weird because, like I said, before I started, I didn't have any interest of tattoos, and then I was just thrown into the business and like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I don't know, tattoos for me is now more meaningful. It's a way to express yourself. You know, it's a healing process. It's for some, it's a rite of passage in a way. And I mean, it means so much to so many people in different ways. And I like that is so, just meaningful in so many interesting ways. So it feels like I have this purpose, and now I also love to share it with others. Like it's sort of my new meaning of life. It's to first find your passion, and then it's to, you know, give it to other people, like share it. So that's become the tattoo world for me now, is to educate the tattoo world and to like share it and to help improving it, and to ultimately, my big goal is to help the world sort of remove the stereotype and the prejudice about tattoos, that they can be, you know, beautiful, and they can just decorate and be on fully normal people that are, you know, good and kind. So, yeah, that's my big goal.
Oh, Linda, you're a great resource to have in the world, really. I love your YouTube videos. It's very educational, and thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.